biggest bottleneck isn't filming, it's actually the workflow. I recently picked up the Ugreen NAS to be my central hub for editing so that I can start the editing on my laptop and continue it on my desktop whenever I want. And the dream was to achieve the network editing. If you have noticed it on the Davinci Resolve, you will see it at the top in the network portion. And I wanted to achieve the shared Davinci Resolve project library. But I actually hit a massive roadblock. After doing a lot of research, I found out that, okay, so you have to run your Postgres Docker container, which uses the port 5432, and you will need a 12th generation of Postgres, which is the most stable one to connect to the Davinci Resolve. However, port 5432 was actually being used by the NAS itself, so it was blocking it and I couldn't install the Postgres. So it basically stopped me setting up the database in the standard way. I went to the SSH panel and tried to close the port. I mean, make it free. But since it was the internal Ugreen system which was using that port, it automatically gets kick-started itself. And I didn't want to touch more in this area because I didn't want to block the normal functioning of the Ugreen NAS. But the reason for making this video is that I finally found a solution to do it where you don't really have to use the port 5432, but you have to connect it in a different way. And the solution is Docker Macvlan setup. Today I will show you how I did this setup, and so that you can follow along and set it up on your own. When I was struggling with this particular issue, I reached out to the community as well. I posted it on the Ugreen Reddit forum and also on the Davinci Resolve forum, and I couldn't find anyone who has done this kind of setup on their own. They came up with a solution somewhere like they were hosting their own project library on their personal laptop, which was running all the time. But I didn't want to achieve it in that way because, come on, Ugreen NAS is already running all the time, so I don't want another device to be running and using the power. So that's the reason I wanted a solution in this direction. So the secret is Macvlan. Instead of fighting the NAS for the port, we are going to give our database its own unique IP address on the network. So first what we need to do is create the Macvlan network for ourselves. So open your terminal. You have to enable your SSH in the Ugreen and then open the terminal for the Ugreen. Connect the SSH connection and then finally run this particular command which you see it on my screen in order to set your own Macvlan. Here's a tip for you. Make sure your parent matches with the NAS network interface. You can find yours by typing IP ADDR. For most of you, it's going to be same as me. It is ETH0 or ENP2S0. So now for the Docker Compose, as I told you, we are going to use the Postgres 12 because it is the most stable version for Davinci Resolve. The key difference here in the normal setup, a normal Docker setup and this particular setup is that we are not mapping any port. Instead, we are assigning a static IP to the container itself using the Macvlan. So this particular IP address is going to be the home for your project library. Now, I personally was only looking for a solution in which I can just set it up and use it internally in the home. At the moment, I didn't set it up in a way that I am connecting it from outside the network. That means I'm not at home. What I really wanted to achieve was to connect two different devices which are existing in the house and wanted to keep switching it. For example, I wanted to keep editing it on the iPad and Mac laptop, or maybe going in a different way of editing it on the computer and then maybe continuing it on the laptop. This is the solution which I was going for. So if you want to connect it from outside the world, so one last technical hurdle would be, by default Postgres is locked down. So we need to tell it to allow the connection from other devices or which are on the LAN. So we are going to edit the pg_hba.conf file and add this line, which you see it on my screen. Save that and then restart your Docker container. And it is ready to be used by the Resolve. Now the moment of truth. Go to your Davinci Resolve, go to the network tab and try to connect it. Instead of creating a database, what you have to do is trying to connect the database. Use the specific Macvlan IP address which you created. In my case, it was 200. So this is the thing which I am going to use it. Use the database name and database password which you created when you're from your YAML file. I kept it as a default while I'm testing it, so that's how it's gonna be. And the library would connect, and you will see the projects which are already present over there. Setting this up takes a few extra steps, but actually it's gonna save you time in the longer run. It is going to give you the flexibility of editing it from anywhere. If you're a creator who is balancing their work and travel as I am, this is going to help you a lot. All the codes and the Docker templates are present in the description box below. You can check that out. Okay, not to miss, one problem which I still see in my setup is this thing, that if you're doing it via your Mac and Mac connection if you have two Mac devices, it's gonna work all right. Because the way the addresses for the files are mentioned in the Mac is the same, but I usually get this issue when I am using the network library for editing, and when I edit it on my Windows PC, and when I try to open the same project from your project library in the Mac laptop, the files get disconnected, because the way the libraries are synced up in the Mac is different as to what Windows have it. So I have to personally relink the clip again. So that's a problem which I still see at this point of setup. At this point in my setup. So maybe you will see it as well. If this helped you fix your Ugreen setup, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to my channel. I'm heading out to find the next location. See you in the next one.